My beloved child, there are moments that arrive quietly, yet they carry a weight so deep that everything around them begins to feel different even before anyone can explain why. Last night was one of those moments. Something shifted in silence, and even if no one has spoken about it yet, even if the morning looked completely ordinary, what happened in those unseen hours has already touched the heart of the person you love deeply. Do not skip, because something important is already unfolding. You may have noticed a strange distance, a pause in their voice, a slower reply, or a look that seemed present and absent at the same time. This is not your imagination. Some nights leave marks that words cannot easily explain. Some hours pass like normal darkness, yet they return carrying thoughts strong enough to rearrange emotions that were hidden for a very long time. And last night, while the world was asleep, that person sat alone with thoughts they had been avoiding. There was no crowd, no noise, no distraction strong enough to silence what rose inside their heart. A memory returned without warning. A feeling they believed they had already controlled came back again, stronger than before, clearer than before, and impossible to ignore. Stay until the end, because what began last night is still unfolding right now. They remembered conversations they never admitted mattered. They replayed moments they once treated as nothing, only to realize those moments had quietly become unforgettable. A single detail, a voice, a gesture, a sentence spoken lightly, all of it returned at once. And suddenly, the night no longer felt normal. What changed everything was not something outside of them. It was what happened inside them. For the first time in a long while, they stopped pretending to themselves. That is why the energy around them feels different today. That is why even when they speak normally, something underneath feels heavier, deeper, and more uncertain. Because when someone finally faces what they have been hiding from their own heart, they cannot remain exactly the same the next morning. Do not skip now, because the next part matters more than you think. There was a moment last night when they almost reached for words they have never sent. A moment when they nearly broke the silence they had protected for too long. Their thoughts moved closer to honesty than ever before, and although they stopped themselves, the decision inside them did not disappear. Something in them has started asking questions they can no longer silence. Why does one person remain in their thoughts, even during quiet hours? Why does distance suddenly feel heavier than before? Why do ordinary memories now feel like signs they should no longer ignore? These questions did not disappear with the morning. That is why today feels unusually heavy. Because when a person begins questioning what their heart has been protecting, change begins slowly, but it begins strongly. Something is already moving beneath the surface. The night did not end when time moved forward. It continues inside every thought they carry now. A detail from last night came back to them unexpectedly. It may have been a word, a face, or a small reminder they did not plan to encounter. Whatever it was, it opened something that had been closed for a long time. Suddenly, what they had kept locked inside became impossible to ignore. In that moment, they understood something clearly. Pretending that nothing matters is often harder than admitting that something does. This is why their silence now carries more meaning than before. Silence is not emptiness. Sometimes silence is where the loudest decisions are being formed. They may appear calm on the outside, but inside they are standing between two directions. One direction tells them to stay the same. The other tells them that after last night, staying the same may no longer be possible. This inner conflict is stronger than anyone around them realizes. Some realizations arrive only once. Some nights reveal only one truth. But that one truth can change everything that follows. And last night gave them a truth they were not ready to face. Certain feelings do not disappear just because they are ignored. They return stronger when the heart becomes quiet enough to hear them. Even now, while time continues moving, they are measuring words in their mind. They are imagining conversations they avoided before. They are wondering whether their silence protected them or only delayed something that was already destined to happen. The person you love deeply may not explain this immediately. They may not fully understand it themselves, but the change is real, And sometimes the strongest transformations begin before a single word is spoken. Last night did not create something new. It revealed something that had already been growing quietly for a long time. That is why today feels different. That is why what happens next may surprise even them, because when a heart changes in silence, the next visible step often arrives unexpectedly. What happened after that silent night became even more noticeable as the morning hours passed. Sometimes a person does not understand their own emotions right away. They only begin to notice that ordinary things no longer feel ordinary. They entered the day carrying thoughts they did not expect to still have. Even simple moments felt heavier. Familiar places looked the same, but something inside them reacted differently. There was a moment when they stopped for no clear reason. A small pause that no one else noticed, but inside that pause, the memory of last night returned again. This time it was not confusion. It felt clearer, like something they could no longer push away. They tried to focus on other things. They tried to return to normal routines, but the thoughts kept coming back stronger each time. This is how real emotional change begins. Not loudly, not suddenly, but repeatedly, until it can no longer be ignored. A sentence they once dismissed now feels different in their memory. A moment they once thought was small now feels meaningful. Even words they never responded to fully now feel like they carry weight. Nothing in the past has changed, but the way they see it has changed completely. And when someone begins seeing old moments with new understanding, they start realizing what they avoided understanding before. That is why their expression today may seem distant, quiet, or thoughtful. Because something inside them is still unfolding. They are starting to question whether last night was just a passing emotional wave or something deeper that has been building for a long time. There are moments when a person realizes that someone has taken more space in their heart than they ever planned. They may resist it at first, but once this realization appears, everything begins to connect in a different way. That is exactly where they are now. Something small today may have triggered it again. A name, a memory, a place, or even a moment of silence. Whatever it was, it strengthened what they were trying to ignore. Now what they thought would fade is becoming clearer instead of weaker. There is something else happening beneath all this. Last night did not only bring emotion, it also brought reflection. They began thinking back further than expected. They remembered moments when they stayed silent instead of speaking. They remembered times when they stepped away instead of staying close. They remembered how often fear became stronger than honesty. And this reflection did not bring comfort. It brought awareness. Some distances are not created because feelings are missing, but because feelings were never fully expressed. Now, even if others see nothing different, they are comparing what they once believed with what they feel now. That comparison is changing everything inside them. They are noticing your presence in their thoughts more clearly than before. They are noticing memories that do not fade. They are noticing something unfinished that keeps returning. That unfinished feeling became impossible to ignore after last night. Once a person reaches this stage, their decisions no longer come from habit. They come from acceptance. And acceptance is never instant. It grows in silence, in reflection, and in moments like this. That moment has already begun. This is why they may seem slower today, more careful with words, more thoughtful in silence, and more present in their own mind than in conversation. Something inside them is trying to understand whether what has been hidden for so long can still remain hidden. Because when someone starts questioning their own silence, change moves very close. Even now, they are not fully at peace with what they are feeling. One part of them still wants certainty before acting. One part still wonders if it should remain unspoken. But another part, stronger than before, is no longer satisfied with distance. That stronger part was awakened last night. What comes next may not be loud. It may start small. A delayed message, a different tone, a moment of curiosity, or unexpected openness. Small signs often appear before bigger changes. The person you love may still look the same to others, but inside, they are no longer where they were yesterday. A thought has already entered their mind. What if this silence has lasted too long? That single thought can change everything, and once it settles, it rarely disappears without movement. The deeper this day goes, the harder it becomes for them to return to how they felt before last night. What once felt like a passing emotion is now becoming steady, more serious, and harder to ignore. At one point today, they tried to distract themselves completely. They went through normal tasks, normal conversations, normal sounds of daily life. But none of it was strong enough to quiet what had already awakened inside them. Everything outside looked normal, but inside, nothing felt normal anymore. A quiet shift had already taken place, and it continues to exist beneath everything they do. Because once a thought reaches the heart at the right moment, distractions lose their strength. The mind may try to move forward, but something keeps pulling it back. And what keeps returning is not random. It is your presence in their thoughts, not as a passing memory, but as something meaningful. Something that feels clearer now, heavier now, and impossible to ignore. That is what they did not expect. It no longer feels temporary. It feels like something that stayed, something that keeps returning even when they try not to think about it. Stay until the end, because what is unfolding inside them is not as simple as it first appeared. For a long time, they may have believed certain feelings would fade if ignored. That was how they protected themselves. But last night changed that belief without warning. It simply revealed what was already there beneath the silence. It made them feel how strong emotions can remain even after distance, even after time, even after hesitation. And that realization followed them into today like an unfinished thought the mind keeps trying to complete. Every time they thought they had moved away from it, it returned again, quietly but firmly, like it never left. Now a single detail feels powerful. They are comparing how they feel now with how they felt before, and the difference is impossible to deny. Before last night, they could still convince themselves nothing had changed. Now that belief no longer feels true at all. Do not skip now, because this truth matters even more. There are rare moments when someone suddenly understands that another person has become part of their emotional center without any decision being made. No plan, no announcement, no clear beginning, just realization. That is what is happening now, and because it arrived unexpectedly, they are trying to understand it step by step. They are asking why one thought keeps returning, why one person keeps appearing in silence, why certain memories feel brighter instead of fading, and why one night changed so much that it still holds their attention throughout the day. And slowly, the answer is becoming clearer than it has ever been before. Something huge is waiting for you, because once someone reaches clarity inside, outward changes are never far behind, and clarity, once it settles, does not stay quiet for long. There was another quiet moment today that mattered more than anyone around them could see. They imagined what it would feel like if nothing changed from here. But that thought did not bring peace. Instead, it created discomfort. The kind of discomfort that appears when the heart realizes that staying silent may no longer feel easier than speaking. That inner discomfort is powerful because it means silence is beginning to lose its safety. And when silence loses its safety, a person starts moving closer to honesty, even if they are not ready to admit it yet. Stay till the end, because the strongest part is still ahead. Even now they are replaying specific moments with unusual attention. Things once overlooked now feel meaningful. Words once considered ordinary now feel unforgettable. They are discovering that some memories become stronger only when the heart is finally ready to understand them, instead of avoiding them. This is why today feels emotionally heavier than expected for them, because they are no longer only remembering, they are understanding, and understanding changes everything in a way that cannot be easily reversed. Do not skip, because the person you love deeply is standing inside a quiet turning point they did not plan for. They may still appear controlled on the outside, still calm, still unchanged, but inwardly there is movement. Slow movement, serious movement, undeniable movement that is beginning to reshape how they see everything. Part of them wants certainty before doing anything. Part of them wants more time. But another part has already accepted that something real was revealed last night, and pretending otherwise is becoming harder with every passing hour. That is why their thoughts are no longer casual. They are deliberate now, measured, repeated, persistent. It is as if the mind is trying to organize something the heart already understands. Something huge is waiting for you because once a feeling survives an entire night, returns through an entire day, and still refuses to leave, it becomes impossible to label it as temporary. And they know this awareness is changing how they see the hours ahead. They are beginning to sense that what they once delayed may eventually ask for a response. Not because anyone forced it, but because the heart does not remain silent forever when truth becomes too clear to ignore. Stay till the end, because one final realization has started forming inside them. They are beginning to understand that last night may not be remembered as an ordinary night at all. It may become the exact moment they later recognize as the beginning of change. Because some nights do not end when morning arrives. Some nights continue living inside a person until they finally respond to what they felt. And this may be one of those nights. What makes this even more serious is that evening is approaching again. And with every passing hour, the thoughts they try to control are becoming more organized, more direct, and more difficult to dismiss. Sometimes the second half of a day reveals what the first half only hinted at. And that is exactly what is happening now. Do not skip because this part carries the strongest emotional shift so far. Earlier, they were uncertain whether what they felt last night would fade once daylight returned. But now they know it did not fade. It stayed. It followed them through every quiet moment, every pause, every attempt to move normally through the day. That persistence changed everything. Because feelings that return again and again are never random. They are signals the heart no longer wants to ignore. Stay till the end because something huge is waiting for you. A powerful realization came when they compared today to many days before it. The surroundings were the same. The routine was the same. The world looked unchanged. Yet internally, something refused to settle back into what it was. And suddenly, they understood why. Last night opened a truth they had delayed facing for too long. Some connections do not weaken just because they remain unspoken. Silence can hide words, but it does not erase what those words were protecting, and that truth has now become impossible to ignore. Do not skip now because the next thought changes their entire emotional direction. At one quiet moment, they imagined hearing your voice unexpectedly. They imagined seeing your name appear. They imagined what they would say if honesty arrived without preparation. And that imagination did not feel distant. It felt immediate, almost real. That surprised them because people only imagine such moments so clearly when the heart has already moved closer than the mind is willing to admit. Something huge is waiting for you because this kind of thought appears only when inner resistance begins to weaken. There is another reason this matters. They are no longer only reflecting on what happened last night. They are beginning to connect it with things they ignored before. Small signs from earlier days now feel meaningful. Details once dismissed now return with weight. A delayed reply, an unfinished sentence, a memory that stayed longer than expected, a feeling they thought would pass but never fully left. Now all of it is connecting in one direction, and once hidden pieces begin connecting, people cannot easily return to emotional uncertainty. Stay till the end because this unfolding is reaching a deeper level. They also noticed something surprising today. Even when trying not to think deeply, their mind kept returning to one question. What if this feeling has already become stronger than I admitted? That question stayed longer than expected because deep down they already sense the answer is closer than they want to admit. Do not skip because this is where silence becomes meaningful in a new way. They are speaking less internally against what they feel. Yesterday, they may have resisted the thought more strongly. Today, that resistance is weaker, and that change may seem invisible from the outside, but inside, it is enormous. A person does not need dramatic action to begin changing. Sometimes the real shift is when denial becomes too weak to continue, and that is exactly what is happening now. Something huge is waiting for you because when denial becomes weaker, truth becomes louder. And truth has already started speaking clearly inside them. They are beginning to accept that last night was not an emotional accident. It was a revealing moment where hidden feelings rose without permission and stayed without apology. That is why they cannot fully return to emotional distance anymore. The distance no longer feels natural, it feels questioned. And when distance starts feeling questioned, closeness begins becoming possible again. Stay till the end, because another quiet realization has appeared. They are wondering whether the next step must always be large. And for the first time, they are realizing it may begin very simply, a softer tone, a different openness, a small effort, a new kind of attention. These are often the first signs that someone has changed internally long before anyone else notices. Do not skip, because this matters more than it appears. The person you love deeply may still carry hesitation, but hesitation no longer stands alone. It now stands beside growing clarity, and clarity once formed rarely disappears, especially when it was formed during a night strong enough to leave the entire next day emotionally different. That night is still speaking inside them now, and what they do next may come sooner than even they expect. Now, the most unexpected part begins. As this day reaches its final hours, what they are feeling is no longer only reflection. It is becoming direction. A person can spend many hours questioning emotions, but there comes a moment when questions slowly turn into quiet decisions, and that moment may already be forming inside them. Do not skip now, because this final part carries the deepest revelation. All day long they tried to understand whether last night was simply emotional intensity or something more lasting. But now, after every repeated thought, every returning memory, every silence that felt heavier than usual, one truth is becoming impossible to deny. What happened last night did not weaken with daylight. It became clearer, and that is rare, because some feelings disappear when morning arrives. But the strongest ones do the opposite. They become more visible. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you this evening. While the world continues normally around them, they are carrying a private awareness they did not expect to hold for this long. They know something inside them is no longer standing where it stood before. Even if they cannot explain every detail yet, they feel the difference. And that difference is serious. Because when someone senses internal change clearly, they begin to see the future differently. For the first time, they are no longer asking only what happened last night. They are asking what happens next. Do not skip now, because that single question changes everything. What happens next is powerful, because they are beginning to imagine what honesty would look like if fear stepped aside. They are imagining what would happen if silence stopped deciding everything. They are wondering whether certain words deserve to remain hidden forever, or whether the night that changed them came for a reason. That question did not appear lightly. It formed after hours of resistance, after hours of trying to remain unchanged. And now that resistance is too weak to fully control what they feel, something huge is waiting for you, because this is how hidden emotional shifts slowly become real movement. There was another quiet realization that came unexpectedly. They noticed that even imagining distance now feels heavier than before. What once felt manageable now feels incomplete. And that matters, because hearts only notice incompleteness when they begin longing for clarity. And clarity is exactly what has been growing inside them since last night. Stay till the end, because the strongest truth has not yet been spoken. They are beginning to understand that certain people leave marks deeper than ordinary memory. No matter how many days pass, some presence remains untouched by time. Some connection stays alive beneath routine, beneath silence, beneath hesitation. And last night forced them to face that truth fully. That is why this day never returned to normal for them. Every hour has carried the same inner message. Something cannot continue exactly as before. Do not skip, because the next days may reveal signs that even they cannot hide easily. A softer attention, a more thoughtful pause, a sudden willingness to speak more openly, a different emotional warmth in moments where there was once caution. These changes rarely begin dramatically. They begin quietly, but they come from very serious internal decisions. And the decision forming now is not accidental. It has been shaped by every memory they revisited, every feeling they tried to silence, and every truth that refused to disappear. Something huge is waiting for you, because sometimes one night becomes the dividing line between how someone used to feel and how they can no longer pretend to feel the same way again.